Hello everyone, this is Sandra. I am checking in. Welcome to my new revamped channel called Pioneering Peace. Let me quiet down this crazy backboard noise. Hopefully one day I can set this up more like a podcast and you can see me talking. But for now, I just wanted to try out something new. So I really enjoy reading books, especially regarding around spirituality, tarot, occult practices or studies, and mysticism. So I have a lot of interesting books that I come across. I wish I would have reviewed some of the other ones before because they're really amazing books. But what I might do is after I get through these ones that I have, which is going to be a lot of books, so get ready, like 40 plus. I'll probably go back to the old ones that I really enjoyed and do a review over. Those old ones include Autobiography of a Yogi. They include The Untethered Soul, The Power of Now, and also Attached about Love's Languages. Very interesting book. Dolores Cannon is pretty interesting, but I may not review that one again. A New Earth is the other one that I'd be loving to do a review on. So we're going to start this one off with the Kybalion. I did not end up reading the original Kybalion, even though I thought I got the original Kybalion. I actually got like a version where it had like somebody's cliff notes in it. Yeah, it was a weird edition. It's the definitive edition. And it also had the manuscript of the 7 Cosmic Laws, which was like one of the last William Walker Atkinson, who is the author of the Kybalion. That's one of the last books that he ever written. So it was kind of like a mixed book, and it had like a breakdown of it. So we're going to kind of go over the fundamentals that are in this book and kind of like my impressions of it. So yeah, this is a great book to start out. I'm going to begin by bringing up the fact that a lot of Hermeticism has really influenced tarot. And Hermes, I'm so scared to say his name, Trismegistus. He has like these specific teachings, and one of them is the Emerald Tablet, which I will eventually be reading and reviewing as well. Stay tuned for that. And he has like these interesting ways of how he believes life works. And so a lot of authors, took off with it and wrote the Kybalion and other books around Hermes teachings, and they call it the Hermetic Orders. And a lot of these were underground groups, and one of them is the Golden Dawn. So the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was one of the groups in the late 1800s that formed and studied some of the work of Hermes. And so Kybalion is kind of the same field that they had looked into. They say that all the fundamental esoteric teachings may be traced back to Hermes. So this is like the beginning, all right? And Hermes is also known as Thoth or Thoth, the god of wisdom of Egypt. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about William Walker Atkinson, who is the writer of this book. So he was born in 1862 in Baltimore, and he was an attorney before he became a writer. So he was attorney, but after he had moved, his credentials didn't transfer to the new location. And so he was like, okay, well, what do I do now? So he got more into studies of occult and esoteric nature, which he was already pretty much studying before, but now he was really deep diving into it. And he was using those teachings to create a new positive way of thinking, a new positive way of looking at life, essentially. And in 1900, he moved to Chicago to become an author. And there he wrote Kybalion with many other works that inspired people like Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill is a guy who wrote a book. Let me see what it's called. It's called Think, Grow Rich, The Steps to Riches, which is interesting. And I'm going to also be breaking that down to come. So let's go. So I'm going to go ahead and read you the main 7 principles of the Hermetic Order. So the first one is the principle of mentalism, all right? And this is the saying that the mind is all. Spirit is unknowable and undefinable. Reality is living and moving, and it is all mind. So it's saying too that reality is kind of like what we're perceiving it to be. It's what we're seeing it. So it doesn't like, it's not one set thing. It's how each, consciousness is taking it in a way. We'll look at another text here. It says, the all is infinite living mind called spirit. Things can't come from nothing, nor be greater than their source. I think it reemphasizes that we're all a part of spirit, and we're all a part of the oneness, and a part of this mind that is part of the oneness. And there's also other similar concepts, as in like with transurfing. And with that, they say that we're a part of God's mind, and kind of like what God decided to write. What does he want to allow to happen? What does he think? And I do think there's room for like free will inside of that, where characters kind of created were like fractions of him and fractions of his mind. And so part of that, we have some control with that, as we all have our own individual, I guess you would say, choice making consciousness. And so like we're all derived from him, but we're all like separate, if that makes sense. Like we're part of his creation, but we're not necessarily him. But all together, when we're all together, like everything is pieced together into one, then we kind of come back to being a part of him more. Like we're like little cells on his body, but as little cells, we're not all controlled by his decisions. We kind of develop and create our own decisions. And we're also affected by like other cells surrounding us and how they're reacting. And so it kind of works in that similar vein. Let's see if I have another quote here. Okay, so we have, the universe and all it contains is a mental creation of the all, infinite. We can do the same, but we're finite. So yeah, that's what makes us different from the source or God. And I'm calling it, whatever name, I know everyone comes from different backgrounds, different beliefs, but we're just saying like, what is the oneness? What do we want to call this oneness? This big cheese, this all overarching presence? I'm just going to use the infinite or God. So whichever one. And there's other teachings that believe that God is only finite, but that's a whole other study right there that we're not getting into tonight. So we're like all part of God's mental creation, but we can only see so far ahead because we're going to pass away. We're not going to live on and on forever. So we see things a little bit differently and react in such ways. The next quote here is, like Hamlet, he is his own person, but an essence of Shakespeare's mind. It is the same with us and the all. So that just clarifies it further. All right. Now, the second principle is the principle of correspondence. That says, death is not real. It is but birth to a new life. You will explore the universe's furthest recesses until the end of time. Our earth is like the bottom of the ocean and greater beings above. So it's kind of talking about like the different layers of reality there is, the different levels that you can go to. And the ultimate goal with the Kybalion is to move up in levels. So you want to move up in spiritual planes. You can think of it like that. And so each level you become higher and higher. And so you do that by changing your vibrations. So they say like how multiple realities work. You can move into different planes by changing the vibrations that your brain waves are putting out. So that's how people are able to astral project, because when they get into this meditative state, then their brain creates these new, you would say maybe you create these gamma brain waves that can help exert you into the next reality. And so essentially, God is at the very top. He's in the very top realm. And so what we're doing here on earth as we're living through it is we're going up each new level until we can reach back to him. So we're becoming closer to him by going up each new level. So that's kind of what it's hinting at here. Next, we have this one that says, in our mortal bodies, we are not the all and are finite. The universe is an illusion to the all, but real to us. All right, so it's just how we're experiencing the different levels. It's how we're experiencing what he has created. The universe itself is finite. Earth itself will eventually end and dissolve. It will not be around forever. But to us, it is all that exists, and it is all that is here. It's best to learn the mental laws to best affect our upward progress back to the all. And this is kind of some of the laws here. These 7 principles are part of the laws that are going to help us. If we understand it, then we can use it to our ability to become closer and to make it become closer to the all and recombining into that oneness, feeling that oneness. And that can also be achieved with like different drugs like DMT and mushrooms, and like how people experience like the ego death and how they experience that love and that overarching feeling of being a part of the all. Now, I have never had an ego death, I'm going to be honest, but that is something that I am very open to experiencing one day, and it's possible doing it through meditation. And so there's so many ways, like it takes a lot of practice and a lot of work and studying. So being aware of these kind of laws and like paying attention to it in your life and trying to cultivate some of this more is going to allow you to become closer to the all and live a better and more fulfilled life. And so a part of that is learning about how to be more loving and how to be more giving and caring and not being so attached to the ego with having the needs and the desires to protect ourselves because of the fear of being inadequate or fitting in, any of that. So it's kind of releasing all of that and just focusing more on how to love and help people and contribute and grow in such ways. So the next one is 109. Okay, so the all is in the earthworm, right? The all is in the earthworm, but the earthworm is not the all. All right? So it's kind of like the same thing with Hamlet and Shakespeare. Hamlet has the essence of Shakespeare, but he is not Shakespeare. All right? I have, in creation, you first imagine the idea, then work it with God. So wrapped up, you forget your essence. Okay, so this is talking about like as above, so below. So it's kind of like one of those things that once you put out there, like those thoughts, those intentions, then and even the actions, and it manifests back to coming back on earth. So whatever your vibrations you're putting out there, whatever energy you're sending out there in the realm of thought and intention, it will come back down to earth. So that is a part of the principle of correspondence. All right, the striving for selfish power on spiritual planes inevitably results in the selfish soul losing its spiritual balance and falling back as for what it has risen. So if you are coming up with, let's see, so it's going back to like if you're more focusing on selfish things, like how can you gain more money and power and recognition, then you're going to be falling further down the planes, and you're going to be experiencing a lot more suffering, and you are not going to be ultimately feeling closer to the all. You're going to be feeling more detached and more overcome and overwhelmed with the physical realm. It's going to just instead of it being a learning field where you can thrive and grow with others and love, it's going to become a lot more cutthroat and stressful and survival mode at that point because of all the selfish intent. So you will not find peace within that. So next we're going to do the third principle, which is the principle of a vibration. The principle of vibration says mastery consists in using higher forces against lower, escaping lower pains by vibrating on higher planes. So that goes back again to the different meditation states, trying to feel, it's allowing your brain to kind of lose the sense of the physical reality so that you may allow yourself to relax and travel into other realities. And the whole idea of vibration is that everything is in constant movement, right? Nothing is completely still, and it's due to the fact that we're all made out of atoms, and atoms, as we know, are protons or neutrons with electrons that move around. This also is what creates electricity, is the exchange of electrons, and it is what we are all made of, moving electrons being exchanged back and forth with everything else. Therefore, everything is in movement, whether it's an inanimate object like a rock or a little cute kitten that's sitting in front of me because she's so cute. Yes, she is. Even the fur, the little follicles of fur on her are full of atoms. So just everything around us is vibrating, but it's happening so quickly that our eyes can't see it. It's kind of like light. The light that comes through into homes are running at 60 hertz. That's faster than our eye can catch, so we can't see it flickering, even though it is. It is like that with everything else. You just imagine what kind of hertz we're all running at here. So next, the fourth principle is the principle of polarity. So opposites are the same, differing only in degree. So they're saying, for example, if we're talking about love and hate, they're saying those are the same thing. They're just the two opposite extremes of the same thing. They're the opposing extremes. Another one would be soft and pointy, or pointy and dull, like a pencil. They're just differing levels of the same thing. That's kind of what the polarity goes over. Understanding polarity brings in desired outcomes. If you are possessed with fear, don't waste time trying to kill it out of your life, but instead cultivate more courage, and fear will disappear, because you'll be moving more on the scale towards courage and further away from fear. So if you focus more on having more courage, then fear will naturally dissipate. Instead of trying to just get rid of fear, just focus on getting more courage. And so that's kind of how you use the law of polarity in your favor. So we have, to kill a negative pole, focus on the positive pole to raise vibrations. Focusing on the positive pole, naturally you'll have more positive thoughts and intentions, and your vibrations will naturally rise, and you'll already be in a happier, healthier sphere frame of mind. The fifth principle is the principle of rhythm. So know that the pendulum will always swing, but don't let it affect your mood. Stay calm and know that it will swing back again. Manifest it to return sooner, like night and day. So the principle of rhythm kind of is like the idea of the pendulum. And as you know, a pendulum is like an object that swings back and forth. And so it's like what swings back and forth is positive experiences and negative experiences. And so what this principle is asking you is to be aware that positive and negative experiences are going to come and go. But as you're going through a negative experience, just having in your mind knowing that this is only temporary and not letting it affect your mood. Stay calm through it, because you know that the pendulum will soon swing back to the positive side and it's going to work itself out. And so if you're letting it get you and while the time is coming, it may even take longer before it wants to swing back. But if you're staying calm and positive, you're kind of manifesting its return sooner than later. Staying in the vibration, I guess, or I can't even say the word vibratory rate. I can't speak sometimes. But if you're staying in that above and you're just watching the pendulum basically passing below you, you're not swinging with the pendulum, you're just observing it swing back and forth. And that's going to help you emotionally get through a lot of the trials that life tries to throw at you. It's just knowing that this is a part of life and not allowing that to get to you. So the law of compensation, this is what that is. The swing in one direction determines the swing in another. The extremes will match up. The amount of joy will be the amount of pain. So it's kind of understanding that this is how the law of compensation works. It kind of like levels itself out. If you get so much joy from spending time with your cute little kitten who sleeps and loves to play and loves to cuddle, you're going to feel just as much pain as when this little kitten passes away and moves on into the next phase of its journey. It's going to cause just as much pain as it did of joy in your life, and just understanding that. But have an appreciation of the goodness that it will bring, and all the things that bring the badness, knowing that there's the same level of goodness it's bringing into your life. It's not all just one way or the other. It's just kind of accepting that that is a part of how life operates. So these are like, basically these 7 principles are kind of like the idea of how life operates, and understanding that you can use them to your advantage to get through life smoothly, instead of having them run your life. You're aware of them so that you can use them to your advantage, right? So that's kind of the idea behind all of this. And just knowing that, it's all about change being constant. Things are never going to remain the same. And it's because life is trying to rebalance itself out. It's kind of like, imagine a tipping scale. Every time one thing happens, something of the opposite impact needs to happen so that it can balance itself out. And, literally nothing is ever the same. Nothing. So they say even jumping in the same river is different every time you come in there. Because when you go into the river one day, the specific water molecules that are coming up and hitting your feet are not the same water molecules that will come and hit your feet the next time you come. Everything is going to be like built up in different ways. The wind that comes through, the dust that lands, and nothing will, the birds are not going to move in the exact same way they were the first time. Every little thing is constantly changing. And so that's going to be a fact. The next one is going to be, which is the 6th one, is the principle of cause and effect. Nothing is coincidence. Everything affects the next. The cosmos is not happenstance. And they're saying nothing is coincidence because everything was due to a certain cause. That's what that reaction was, the effect of what has happened. And so that's everything that's going on is because of an effect. Everything that you're seeing that's happening is an effect of some kind of causation. Karma is the law of cause and effect. That was something that I thought was interesting in this book. I've never heard of karma in that way. I've always heard of I guess it's karma is kind of like payback for what you've done, whether it's good or bad. But this is explaining that's what part of that, that's how it works. It's because of cause and effect. Because of the cause that you put out there is the effect that you'll get back. You put a negative cause, you'll have a negative effect. And so, I just never thought of karma in that way. So I thought that was kind of interesting that it was tying it in to one of their principles of cause and effect. The last but not least principle is principle of gender. This is the 7th principle. The thoughts of some strong individual plants the thoughts in us. The feminine is subconscious and the masculine is conscious. So it's talking about like the different genders. It was saying that the females are more of what's on the subconscious side, and males are like being masculine is more of what's on the conscious side. So females, as they say, is like intuition and knowing like what's, in our passing in our mind that we're not necessarily aware of. And the masculine is more of like the conscious decisions we make, the awareness of what we're actually observing, that kind of thing, structure. So it's saying like, and it uses hypnotism in it, which I thought was interesting. So it says hypnotism is suggestion of one's masculine mind into one's feminine. So they're saying like by hypnotizing someone's conscious mind is putting someone, trying to put words into someone's unconscious mind, like, so that's why it's subconscious. So like when they're kind of like in a state, like in a meditative state, and they're kind of allowing anything to come in, they're gonna kind of make it more feel like it's coming from themselves. They're gonna think they're thinking it, they're feeling this, these thoughts that are being put into them, and because they're in that state where they're more open and vulnerable to those things. And so they're kind of like, that's how hypnotism works. And then it's the same with mind reading. They say that that's someone's unconscious mind going into someone's conscious mind. And so they're trying to use their subconscious to kind of like allow any, like the feeling of like what this person is intentionally directing out into the world. And so that's kind of how the Kybalion explained those two things, and I thought that was quite interesting. They also mention that nature doesn't work as well if things are too similar. They don't believe that like something can just multiply itself without another. It needs to be two things. And the reason why is because everything can't be exactly the same, or it can't really change or evolve, because since we are here to grow and love and to evolve and become better, we can't do that if we're all exactly the same. There's no action or reaction. It's just everything would be identical and the same. And so that's why nature doesn't want anything to be too similar. Everything needs to be so independently different that no two things are exactly the same. And so that creates more of that space for evolution, for change, and for growth. And so that's why gender exists, so that we can create new things that aren't being multiplied by itself. And the only way to do that is by having like two separate things that can come together. So overall, I really enjoyed this version of the Kybalion. I wish I had read the original as well. I don't know if it would have been easier to comprehend or harder. It was kind of nice having like a cheat sheet, like this guy like breaking down, like he revealed a few lines that were from the Kybalion, and he was like, okay, this is what it means. And I thought that was very helpful. So personally, I think this book was definitely worth the read. This is kind of what I got out of it. The main ideas. There's so many more amazing, great nuggets in it. That's just kind of like the overall basic form. If you're interested in reading it, I would recommend to. I think it's a good overview of understanding the esoteric and mystical studies. I think it's a great place to start. I mean, it kind of goes over every basic thing you could possibly think of. Another basic thing I would also say for people who are beginning, if you haven't read Michael Singer or Eckhart Tolle, I would highly recommend those two as well. So kind of reading their most famous books is really helpful in getting to know what the ego is, and kind of separating like what the ego is versus what the consciousness is. And those are kind of like the very fundamentals. And then I think that might even help even more as you're reading the Kybalion. It's also interesting reading My Big Toe by Thomas Campbell, as he goes into like astral projecting. It kind of, some of his takeaways do mirror what's in the Kybalion as well. I think a lot of different spiritual books kind of mirror each other, and I think that's what's so interesting about it. Even Dolores Cannon could possibly mirror this stuff. If you don't know Dolores Cannon, she is big on like extra, I don't know if extraterrestrial is the right word, because they said there's another word for it, because terrestrial means not from Earth, and they're saying it's not from the universe. So whatever that word is. But She believes in like what she's describing as aliens. I honestly could believe it as being beings from another astral plane, from another non-physical reality plane. And so that's kind of how I use her work with Thomas Campbell's work. They kind of mirror each other. It's very fascinating stuff. But anyway, hopefully one day I can pedal backwards and add that to my reservoir of book reviews. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one of the Kybalion, and I hope that you're able to get some good nuggets from it and maybe be inspired to do some reading yourself. Let's see. Or if you don't want to read it, this channel is awesome because I'm going to give you the main things that stood out to me and that were most helpful for me and break it down to you so you don't have to read it and save you some time. Let me look at who broke down this book, because they're deserving a very... Okay, so Philip Deslippi. I feel like I'm saying this guy's name wrong, but I'm going to write his name. His name is Philip Philip Deslip. Deslippe. So that is the guy who had interpreted the Kybalion and given a little backstory on William Walker Atkinson, which is why I did that as well. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this type of video and hope to bring more amazing content like this, bring more peace into the world so that we can all learn, grow, show love, and become a better place. Thanks, guys. Bye.